Please, don't come closer. I can't stand up, she cried out in the crowded cafe under the scorching midday sun. Her wheelchair tilted sharply to one side after the collision. Hot coffee spilled across the floor. Two young men at the nearby table laughed. Careful there, you're pretty but so clumsy. One crouched down, his hand reaching for the wheel. Let us help you. She trembled, backing against the glass wall, her voice breaking. Please don't. I can't walk. A chair scraped loudly across the floor. She said she doesn't need help. A man stepped forward from the counter, coffee cup still in hand, his eyes cold as steel. He positioned himself between her and the men. Sunlight reflected off his white shirt, stained with coffee. The air went silent. The two men backed away slowly. She looked up, her eyes trembling as they met his face. The man who had left her 6 years ago. The man was Ethan Cole, 38 years old, a safety engineer who once worked at Clara's company. A single dad. She was Clara Morell, 34, CEO and founder of Morlix Robotics, now confined to a wheelchair after a stage explosion 6 years ago. That day, the safety system Ethan was responsible for was blamed as the cause of the blast. He was fired, his engineering license revoked, labeled as the man who destroyed the young CEO's life. Clara, when she woke up after surgery and heard that Ethan had disappeared, she believed he had run from responsibility. Now, here he was in broad daylight, shielding her, as if no distance had ever existed between them. She stared in disbelief. You're still here? He simply replied, I never went far at all. Her voice shook. 6 years ago, you left me in the rubble. He looked straight at her. I stayed there until the last person was carried out. But when you woke up, they needed someone to blame. The air froze. An 8-year-old girl ran up and hugged his leg. Dad, I found the paper crane. Clara stood frozen, staring. He introduced her quietly. My daughter, Leah. Clara nodded softly. Silent tears streamed down her face. The cafe felt warmer somehow. The afternoon light filtered through the windows, casting soft shadows across the tile floor. Ethan knelt beside Clara's wheelchair. Let me help you straight out in this. She didn't pull away this time. Her hands gripped the armrest tightly, but she nodded. As he adjusted the wheel, Leah bounced excitedly beside them. Look, Miss Clara, I made this crane all by myself. It's orange, my favorite color. Clara managed a small smile. It's beautiful. You can have it. Leah pressed the origami crane into Clara's palm before Ethan could stop her. Leah, don't bother. It's okay, Clara whispered. Closing her fingers around the delicate paper. Thank you. The girl beamed. Ethan finished fixing the wheelchair and stood. For a moment, they just looked at each other. 6 years of silence hung between them like a heavy curtain. I should go, he said finally. Clara wanted to say something, anything, but the words caught in her throat. As Ethan took Leah's hand to leave, the little girl waved enthusiastically. Bye, Miss Clara. Come visit us sometime. The cafe door chimed as they left. Clara sat there for a long time, staring at the orange paper crane in her hand. The coffee stain on the floor had already been wiped away by the staff, but the mark this encounter left on her heart, that would take much longer to clean. She carefully tucked the crane into her purse. Outside, through the window, she could see Ethan lifting Leah onto his shoulders. The girl's laughter carried faintly through the glass. They looked happy, complete, and she had believed for 6 years that he was a coward. Clara's assistant arrived, apologizing for being late, but Clara barely heard her. Are you okay, Miss Morell? Clara touched her purse where the crane was hidden. Yes, I need you to pull some old files for me from 6 years ago. The incident report. The explosion case? But that's been closed. Pull it anyway. I want to see everything again. The orange paper crane Leah held dropped on the table. Clara picks it up, keeps it. After that day, Clara couldn't rest. The image of the man standing in front of her haunted her thoughts. She had someone dig up the old files and discovered something shocking. The incident report from 6 years ago had been altered. The person listed as technically responsible was indeed Ethan, but the line reading following directives from the board of directors had been erased. She went numb. It turned out he had been forced to sign the statement so that she and the company could escape legal liability. One afternoon, she went to his workshop. Leah was drawing on the cement floor while Ethan repaired an old robotic arm. She spoke softly. "You stayed silent? For me?" He just smiled. "For you and 47 other people who survived. I made that choice." Her voice broke. "You lost everything because of me." He answered, "I still have Leah. I still see you alive. That's enough." From that day on, Clara often stopped by, quietly watching the father and daughter work. The workshop was modest, bare concrete walls, fluorescent lights, and tools scattered everywhere. But there was warmth here, real warmth. Leah brought Clara a drawing one day. "Miss Clara, this is a robot I made. It knows how to hug sad people." Clara laughed, but tears fell. The girl's drawing showed a round robot with extending arms. Hearts floated around it. In the corner, she had written in crooked letters, "For people who need hugs." "This is wonderful, Leah. Dad says sometimes people just need someone to hold them when they're sad. So I made this." Clara looked at Ethan, who was focused on soldering a circuit board. He didn't look up, but she saw the corner of his mouth lift slightly. Over the following weeks, Clara found herself returning again and again. She watched Ethan teach Leah about gears and motors. She listened to them joke about burnt pancakes for breakfast. She saw the careful way he braided his daughter's hair each morning, even though his large hands fumbled with the tiny elastics. This was a life she had never known. Simple, honest, real. One rainy afternoon, the three of them sat on the workshop floor, sharing instant noodles because Ethan had forgotten to go grocery shopping. Leah slurped her noodles loudly and giggled. "Dad always forgets food, but never forgets my homework." "That's because homework is important," Ethan said, ruffling her hair. "Food is important too," Leah protested. Clara found herself laughing, actually laughing. When was the last time she had done that? The rain drummed steadily on the metal roof. It was a lonely sound, but somehow here with them, it felt peaceful. "Can I ask you something?" Clara said quietly. Ethan looked at her. "Of course. If you had told the truth that day, would things have been different for us?" He set down his bowl and gazed up at the ceiling, watching raindrops trace patterns on the skylight. "Maybe you would have hated me less, but I still would have lost my job. And you would have lost faith in the world. I didn't want that. So you sacrificed yourself. I chose what I could live with." He met her eyes. "And I can live with this." Clara felt something shift inside her chest. For 6 years, she had carried anger like a stone. Now, slowly, that stone was beginning to crack. "I judged you," she whispered. "I believed the worst of you without question. You had every reason to. No, I should have trusted you. I should have looked for the truth." Leah, sensing the heavy mood, climbed into Clara's lap. Well, as much as she could with the wheelchair. She wrapped her small arms around Clara's shoulders. "Don't be sad, Miss Clara. Dad says sad feelings are like rain. They come, they pour, but then they go away and make flowers grow." Clara hugged the girl back, tears mixing with laughter. "Your dad is very wise." "I know," Leah said proudly. For the first time in many years, Clara felt something other than bitterness. She felt hope. As the afternoon faded into evening, Ethan walked Clara to her car. The rain had stopped, leaving the air fresh and clean. "Thank you," she said, "for today, for everything. You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do. You gave me something I lost a long time ago." "What's that?" "The belief that good people still exist." He smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "They're everywhere, Clara. You just have to be willing to see them." As her driver pulled away, Clara looked back through the rear window. Ethan and Leah stood in the doorway waving. The light from inside the workshop framed them like a photograph. She touched the paper crane in her purse. Then she pulled out her phone and called her assistant. "I need you to arrange something. I want to sponsor a program for rehabilitation robotics, and I want Ethan Cole to lead the technical development." "The man from the explosion case?" "Miss Morell, the board will never approve. Then I'll fund it personally. Make it happen." She hung up. Outside her window, the city lights blurred past. But in her mind, she only saw that warm workshop and the father and daughter who had somehow started healing wounds she thought were permanent. The drawing robot that hugs sad people, Clara hangs it in her office. News spread fast. Former disgraced engineers secretly closed with Morlick's CEO. A video surfaced online showing Clara, Ethan, and Leah laughing together at the garage. The board held an emergency meeting. Victor, the vice president, spoke through clenched teeth. If you don't end this, shareholders will pull out. Clara remained silent. That night, she went to the garage, only to find a seal on the door. Closed for investigation. Ethan had been arrested temporarily for trespassing on Morlick's company property. Leah sobbed uncontrollably. Dad said he was just fixing the old robotic arm for disabled people. The little girl sat on the curb outside the police station, her face buried in her knees. A social worker tried to comfort her, but Leah kept asking for her father. Clara arrived within the hour. She pushed her wheelchair up the ramp, her assistant following nervously behind. Miss Morell, are you sure this is wise? The press is already... I don't care about the press. Inside, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. The smell of stale coffee and paperwork filled the air. When she finally saw Ethan through the glass partition, her heart broke. He sat calmly, hands folded on the metal table. When he saw her, he tried to smile. You shouldn't be here. She spoke through tears. I used to think you abandoned me, but it turns out I'm the one who abandoned you. Ethan's smile faded. No one abandoned anyone. I just chose silence. She reached through the small opening, grasping his hand through the bars. I'm going to tell the truth. All of it, I promise. Clara, don't. Your company. To hell with my company. You have a daughter out there crying for you. Oh, you have a life that's being destroyed again because of me. I won't let it happen twice. He squeezed her hand gently. You don't have to save me. Yes, I do. Because 6 years ago, you saved me, and I never said thank you. The officer nearby shifted uncomfortably, pretending not to listen. Clara pulled back, straightening in her wheelchair. Her eyes held a determination that hadn't been there in years. I'm calling a press conference tomorrow morning. Clara, this ends now. The next morning, journalists packed the conference room at Morlick's headquarters. Cameras flashed like lightning. Microphones crowded the podium. Clara wheeled herself to the front. No assistant, no spokesperson, just her. The room fell silent. 6 years ago, she began, her voice steady, there was an explosion at our product launch. 47 people were injured. I was one of them. She paused, letting the weight settle. A man named Ethan Cole was blamed for the incident. His career was destroyed, his reputation ruined, and I believed it. I believed he was responsible. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. But I was wrong. She pulled out a folder. This is the original incident report. It shows that the safety system failure was the result of cost-cutting measures ordered by the board of directors, myself included. Ethan Cole was forced to sign a modified report that removed any mention of executive responsibility. Gasps, camera shutters clicking rapidly. He took the fall so that our company could survive, so that investors wouldn't pull out, so that could keep my position. Victor stood up in the back. Miss Morell, you're not thinking clearly. Sit down, Victor. Her voice cut like ice. Or I'll release the emails showing you were the one who ordered the report alteration. He went pale and sat. Clara continued, Ethan Cole is innocent. He has always been innocent. And yesterday he was arrested for trying to repair donated equipment to help disabled individuals. Equipment that I personally asked him to work on. She removed the CEO pin from her jacket, the small gold emblem that had defined her for a decade. Effective immediately, I am resigning as CEO of Morlick's Robotics. I am liquidating my personal shares to establish a fund for the victims of the explosion and their families. And I am formally apologizing to Ethan Cole for the injustice done to him. The room erupted. Reporters shouted questions. Board members stormed out. But Clara sat still, feeling lighter than she had in years. Hours later, she arrived at the police station to find Ethan already released. He stood in the parking lot with Leah clinging to his leg. When he saw Clara, something in his expression softened. She wheeled up to him slowly. "You didn't have to do that," he said. "Yes, I did." Leah looked between them, confused but hopeful. "Does this mean Dad isn't in trouble?" "Your dad was never in trouble, sweetheart," Clara said gently. "He's a hero. I just needed everyone else to know it too." The girl's face brightened. "I always knew." Ethan crouched down beside Clara's wheelchair. "You gave up everything." "No," Clara said, meeting his eyes. "I finally got everything right." He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his entire face. "So what now?" he asked. "Now," Clara took a breath, "now I stop living big and start living right." The sun broke through the clouds overhead, casting golden light across the parking lot. Leah grabbed both their hands. "Can we get ice cream? I think everyone needs ice cream after a hard day." They laughed, really laughed. And for the first time in 6 years, Clara felt like she was exactly where she was supposed to be. Clara publicly resigns, removes her CEO pin, saying, "I want to live right, not live big." Clara and Ethan opened Phoenix Lab, a center for repairing and rehabilitating assistive robots for people with disabilities. She used her personal funds to invest. He handled the technical side. Leah became the little soul of the place. Every morning, sunlight poured through the glass doors, reflecting off Clara's standing frame. She practiced consistently, each step slow but certain. One day she fell. Ethan rushed over, but she looked up, laughing. "I'm okay. I fell because I'm learning to stand." He froze, then smiled back. The workshop wasn't fancy. Concrete floors, second-hand equipment, mismatched furniture donated by supporters. But it had something Morlick's never had: heart. People came from all over: a veteran with a prosthetic leg, a child born with cerebral palsy, an elderly woman who had lost mobility after a stroke. Ethan would sit with each of them, listening to their stories, understanding their needs. Then he'd return to his workbench and create something unique for each person. "Everybody is different," he explained to Leah one evening, "so every solution has to be different too." The girl nodded seriously, holding a tiny screwdriver like it was a wand. Clara watched them from her office, a small corner space with a window overlooking the main floor. She had never felt prouder of anything in her life. Her physical therapy sessions happened right there in the lab. No private facility, no expensive equipment, just the standing frame Ethan had built, reinforced bars, and determination. Some days were harder than others. "I can't do this," she gasped one morning, her legs trembling. Ethan was beside her instantly. "You can rest." "No, I want to do this." "Then we'll do it together." He stood in front of her, hands ready to catch her if she fell, but not touching unless needed. "One more minute," Clara breathed. 60 seconds felt like an hour, but she made it. When she finally sat back in her wheelchair, she was crying. Not from sadness, from pride. Leah ran over with a hand-drawn certificate. "Congrats on standing for a whole minute. You get a gold star." Clara accepted it with shaking hands, laughing through tears. These small victories meant more than any corporate award she'd ever received. Evenings at Phoenix Lab had their own rhythm. After the last client left, the three of them would gather around the small kitchen table. Sometimes they'd work on homework. Leah's math problems spread across scattered papers. Other times they'd just talk about everything and nothing. "What was your favorite part of today?" Ethan would ask. "When Mr. Chen walked 10 steps, Leah would say excitedly. "When I didn't burn dinner," Ethan would joke. "When I remembered what happiness feels like," Clara would think, but not always say aloud. One afternoon, a reporter showed up asking for an interview about the disgraced CEO's redemption story. Clara politely declined. "This isn't about redemption. It's about finally doing what matters." The reporter pressed, "But don't you miss the power? The prestige?" Clara glanced at Ethan, helping a young boy adjust his new leg brace. She saw Leah drawing with crayons, her tongue poking out in concentration. "I don't miss anything," she said firmly. "I'm exactly where I belong." As weeks turned into months, Clara's progress became visible. She could stand for 5 minutes, then 10, Then 15. The standing frame that had once felt like a prison now felt like a gateway. You're getting stronger, Ethan observed one evening. It's easier when you have a reason, Clara replied, watching Leah chase bubbles in the courtyard outside. He understood without her having to explain. One night after Leah had gone to sleep on the workshop couch, Clara and Ethan sat outside under the stars. Do you ever regret it? She asked quietly. The path you chose? He thought for a moment. I used to when I couldn't find work, when I had to explain to Leah why we moved to a smaller place, when I saw your face on magazine covers and wondered if you hated me. And now, I realized that every difficult choice led me here, to this moment, with you, with Leah, building something real. Clara reached over and took his hand. Thank you. For what? For not giving up. On yourself, on me, on the possibility that broken things can be fixed. He squeezed her hand gently. You were never broken, Clara. You were just bent for a while. Above them, the maple tree Leah had planted months ago swayed in the breeze. New leaves rustled softly. It's growing, Clara observed. Things do that, Ethan said with a smile, when you give them time and care. She leaned her head on his shoulder, and they sat like that for a long while, listening to the night sounds of the city. Inside, through the window, they could see Leah sleeping peacefully, clutching a stuffed robot she'd made from spare parts. This was home. Not the penthouse Clara used to own, not the mansion with empty rooms, this small workshop with its cracked floors and secondhand furniture. This was home. The standing frame, once a limitation, now a doorway to freedom. 1 year later, Phoenix Lab was selected as a pioneering rehabilitation model. News articles featured Clara standing, no support frame, just Ethan gently holding her hand. Early morning, sunlight filled the small kitchen. Leah placed a drawing on the table. 3 people standing under a red maple tree. Above it, in wobbly letters, home. Clara touched it gently, tears welling up. Ethan spoke softly. You don't have to be strong anymore. Just be here. She answered, if you two still need me. He smiled. Not need, want. The distinction mattered. Need implied obligation. Want implied choice. And choice was everything. Outside on the patio, wind moved through the maple's canopy. Red leaves drifted down like gentle rain. The tree had grown tall in just 1 year. Leah marveled at it every day. I planted something tiny and look at it now. That's what happens when you nurture things, Ethan had told her. Clara thought about that often. How they had all been seeds, buried in darkness, and somehow they had found light. The lab's opening ceremony was that afternoon. Local officials would attend, reporters would come, families who had been helped would share their stories. But right now, in this quiet morning moment, it was just the 3 of them. Are you nervous? Ethan asked Clara. No, she said, surprising herself. I've spoken at 100 corporate events, but this time I actually have something to say. What's that? She looked at him, then at Leah. That family isn't where you come from. It's where you choose to be. And I choose here. Leah squealed and hugged her tightly. Later, when the ceremony began, Clara wheeled herself to the podium, but halfway through her speech, she paused. Then slowly, she stood. Ethan was there beside her, hand extended but not holding, ready to catch her if needed, but letting her stand on her own. The audience gasped. A year ago, Clara said, her voice steady, I thought my life was over. I thought I had lost everything that mattered. My career, my mobility, my purpose. She looked directly at the crowd. But I was wrong. I hadn't lost anything. I had just been looking in the wrong places. She gestured around the lab. This place isn't about fixing robots. It's about fixing what we thought was broken. About learning that scars don't make us less. They make us real. Applause erupted, but she raised her hand gently. The man standing beside me, Ethan Cole, he taught me that strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up. And sometimes it's about letting someone help you back up. She turned to him. Thank you for not giving up on me, even when I gave up on you. He shook his head slightly, eyes glistening. I never gave up. I know, she whispered. That's why I love you. The words hung in the air between them. It was the first time she'd said it out loud. Ethan's face transformed. Not shock, not surprise, just quiet joy. I love you too, he said simply. I have for a very long time. Leah jumped up from the front row. Finally, I've been waiting forever. The audience laughed. The ceremony continued, but for Clara, everything else faded into background noise. All she could focus on was the warmth of Ethan's hand in hers, the sound of Leah's laughter, the feeling of standing on her own 2 feet. That evening, as the sun set, the three of them stood outside under the maple tree. Leah hung a paper crane on one of the branches, the orange one from that day at the café, carefully preserved. For good luck, she declared. It swayed gently in the evening breeze, catching the last rays of sunlight. Clara looked at the life she had built. Not perfect, not glamorous, but real, so beautifully real. Ready to go home? Ethan asked. She smiled. I'm already there. The paper crane Leah hangs on the glass door, swaying gently in the morning sun. If you believe healing stories like this deserve to be told, leave a comment and subscribe to Hidden Heart Stories. We tell the stories that shouldn't be forgotten.